So my question is about, I guess, the sort of future of kind of surveys in terms of and data collection in a kind of rapidly changing kind of digital environment, and also in an environment where I think, as we all know, the kind of challenges of doing face-to-face data collection in many countries have, it's become more challenging. We're getting lower. It's becoming more costly. Perhaps you could say something about kind of what you sort of see as the kind of main kind of methodological kind of or those kind of sort of strategic and methodological kind of challenges in relation to the kind of survey data collection kind of approach, and how you're thinking about how you have, or you're thinking about developing, adapting your own studies in that context, and what advice you would have to the guide study about kind of about data collection mode, I think, in particular, and cost, I suppose. Yeah.
Happy to go first on that, if that's okay. So when ESS has already been a face-to-face survey, because face-to-face was felt to be like the gold standard, it had the highest response rates compared to other modes, and most other modes couldn't be employed across everyone in the population. So maybe people, were ex-directory on the telephone, so you could contact them that way, etc. Then COVID came, and some of our countries couldn't do the ESS face-to-face. So we rapidly transitioned those to a combination of web and paper. And why didn't we go only for web? Because in many of our countries, there's a significant proportion of people who are not online. And actually, we found that if you give people the option of paper as well, you can actually sometimes improve the overall quality in some of the countries, maybe not in the Netherlands and Iceland, but maybe in many other places, perhaps including Italy, for example. So we experimented with that, and it's gone well, and we thought that there was hope for the future. But what we've witnessed since COVID is the rapid deterioration of face-to-face capacity in many countries. So our 11th round is in the field, and it's taking like forever because there aren't enough interviewers. Agencies can't recruit interviewers. Costs are going up. And many of our national coordinators are now saying to us, you cannot rely on face-to-face for much longer, maybe not even in 2 years to do the ESS. So we will be switching our data collection to a mix of web and paper, hopefully one day only web interviews or some other mediums. But at the moment, I think that combination is really important. And it's just a case now of when we can kind of make the change. Certainly by 2027, we hope that all countries will have made that switch. And unless there's concerted effort in particular countries to save face-to-face data collection for some specialist surveys, I really do fear that it won't be there at all in some countries.
Yeah, I share the fact that, of course, the costs are very important here. The GGP has done recently a workshop trying to analyze and estimate the growing cost in the next years for different modes. The differences are important. However, of course, there are other issues to take into account. First and foremost, the response rate, that it seems to be quite declining in the last surveys, and this is an issue for representativeness. Of course, that has a threshold, because if it goes below a certain point, then even with I mean, it's not so easy to make inference on what you have. GGS has decided to impose at least a proportion of online CAWI interviews for all the countries. However, some countries, they have gone for total CAWI. In a country like Italy, we have decided to keep both mode, also to do some still some comparison to see if there are very different differences. The preoccupation is the length of the questionnaire. So in this sense, the online probability panels are better because they have a repetitive but short questionnaire. Here we are going for something that is more than 1 hour. And it has been studied that in some cases people open does a piece of the questionnaire, and then the question remains open for days. So this is the new challenges. I think there are good things and bad things. Another things that I think is important and is it might be relevant is that some questions seems to be addressed better in one mode than in another. So when you need to report about your ideas or your perspective or your intention, and it seems that if you answer on your own without a person in front of you, you tend to be less normative, and so less prone to say something that a person would like to hear. So I think this is quite important. On the other hand, sometimes some questions are simply skipped, so altogether, because it's easy, of course, to jump to one question to another, whereas with an interviewer, you might be more pushed to answer to everything.
Yeah, this is also in Shareable, what we see is not just the people are less willing to participate in face-to-face, but in any mode to basically sample new respondents became much worse over time in all countries. So, and the sample is the most important thing, I think, for your success, because if you screw up the sample, then it's over and you never recover. So that is important. And since once you sample the initial sample, then then it's usually much easier and it should go well. But still, we face lots of changes in the future. In all countries, in several years, data will be linked to registers, to administrative data. We will live in different environment in which most of the questions we ask are useless because the state knows better, and we can access the data, and it's good. It's good even for us, but we have to change. We have to adapt, and we have to ask questions which the big brother doesn't know yet, and we should do it in a very good methodological, inventive way and learn from that. And that's I think the future which we will need to go. Otherwise, we will not survive.
I'll just come back on one thing on the response rates. I mean, I agree that they've been going down, but what we've started to find now in some countries is you can get much higher response rates to a self-completion survey than you can to a face-to-face survey. Germany, Sweden, UK, just some examples. And I think what we really need to do is focus on how we can improve those and kind of reverse that trend. And I do think it's possible. I don't think it's an ever sort of decreasing pattern. I think we can build on some of those lessons that we've learned and really try to improve that.
Radim, you want to come back?
No, I want to continue what I was saying before. So no, I think it's not only good for us, it's actually great for us, because we don't want to ask the repetitive core questions over and over again. How much did you earn, and was it net or gross income and whatever? Okay. No, we don't want to ask these questions. We want to ask different questions. We want to ask interesting questions, which is better for science, better for the respondent, and it's enjoyable because we don't want to repeat the same questionnaire for next 20 years.